Welcome back. Now, the latest crime stats show that over 2,000 kidnapping cases were recorded between July and September of this year. Now, some say it's time to consider getting kidnap and ransom insurance. So for more on this, we're now joined by Reinsurance Solutions Intermediary Services CEO, Mr. Cameron Cupido. Thank you so much for your time, Cameron, and good morning to you. Kidnap and ransom insurance. This is my first time personally hearing of it, but what does it entail?
So kidnap and ransom insurance basically provides cover for any expenses or losses incurred that emanate from a kidnapping, extortion, hijack, wrongful detention. And the cover can extend to various perils, but those are the main perils that are typically covered under this. Essentially, what the policy is covering is the crisis management surrounding the event, so it's pre and post event, as well as the actual ransom itself. But bear in mind that the insurance company does not actually physically pay the ransom. The policy is actually a reimbursement policy. So ultimately what happens is the insured would have to pay the ransom and then later recover from the insurance company.
Yeah. So my understanding of this insurance is because, I mean, with just recently the high number of kidnappings we've seen in this country alone, that is alarming. Surely some intervention is needed in this regard. But equally so, yesterday eNCA also covered a story where it seems a man had allegedly lied about his 5-year-old niece or nephew getting kidnapped. So aren't there any challenges such as that where there is insurance, and maybe this could also be a loophole for fraud in this regard?
Yeah, so fraud is quite a huge challenge that insurers have to face, and that's part of the underwriting process. Really, what insurers have to look out for is to mitigate against the risk of fraud, and it's a real challenge. So the case you're talking about is quite typical, where there are false claims of kidnap, and individuals are looking to extort or to benefit from the insurance policy.
Yeah, and I'm hoping even that for criminals as well, perhaps even some watching this conversation right now, they would not exacerbate this issue even more of kidnapping, saying, you know what, if there's insurance for it, then you'll just get your money back if you're covered. So with that being said then, Cameron, who needs this cover? Who needs to be insured with this kidnap and ransom insurance policy?
So it's a range of individuals, but typically what happens is your multinational companies that are operating globally would buy cover for their employees that travel quite frequently to politically unstable territories where there's a high risk of kidnapping. It would also cover basically individuals, high net worth individuals. So you're looking at celebrities, typically would buy this cover that travel quite a lot. So your high profile individuals, also non-government organizations that have operations globally, that send their employees to war zones and politically unstable territories. They would typically also buy this cover.
So when we talk about, you know, some of the local kidnapping incidents and criminal activity that we already have covered or seen in South Africa, how do they fare compared to those you've just mentioned right now of, you know, multinationals traveling a lot in parts that are very much rigged with kidnapping incidents? I mean, how do those numbers and stats, if you have them at your disposal, or even just a rough estimate, how do they look compared to local South African kidnapping incidents?
So incidents are severely underreported, and there's a reason for that. There's a heavy threat that's associated with reporting an incident. Usually the kidnappers would threaten your life. Basically, if you had to report it, you know, you run the risk of being killed. So that's why a large number of cases are actually not reported. So the stats that you're seeing are actually understated to a large extent, but typically where insurers get involved, those are on the big claims, where it's huge amounts involved. And one thing to understand is that usually the insured kidnap and ransom and that's designed that way specifically to avoid any fraud, because sometimes an employee might then decide, if they knew that they had the kidnap and ransom policy in place, to collude with kidnappers, to escalate the ransom. But also, if the employers go around telling everyone that they've got this policy, they become a target.
Right.
So that's quite a real issue. So what tends to happen is that companies would buy this cover for their employees, a blanket cover, but the employees typically would not know about it.
Yeah, well, that's a call for concern, but you know what, at least there's some sort of intervention to assist those who find themselves in that unfortunate situation. Cameron, Cupido, thank you so much for your time this morning. And I suppose it also makes us understand why there was so much hesitance from the Mothi family, just to give an example, in divulging whether a ransom was actually paid or not. The safety of the boys at this point was at stake, and a lot at stake, I suppose, even for the family, because as Cameron just highlighted, sometimes these criminals can threaten your life if you do report, incidents of kidnapping. All right, with that.